Hi folks, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sarah and today is day 4 of the Inktober drawing challenge. So the word prompt for today is spell, and with my animal theme that made me think of witches and therefore black cats, and I thought that was probably the closest animal I could get to fit in with my theme and also the prompt. So the aim for today's painting was simple. Basically, my aim today was just to complete a drawing or painting because I only had 1 hour to do it in, and that in itself was a bit of a challenge. So the technique that I'm going for is the throw ink at the paper and hope for the best technique, and that kind of simplified things, I guess, a little bit. So I started off anyway with going in with a wet in wet technique for the cat's eyes and just dropping in a few colours and letting them bleed together, because I really enjoyed that about yesterday's piece with the squirrel, and just kind of letting those colours blend together and merge together on the wet paper. Then I went in with my dip pen and just did a little bit of detail on the nose, and then after that I decided to just throw the ink at the paper, as I said, and kind of hope for the best. Unfortunately, even though I'd gone on and done the nose after I'd done the cat's eyes, I hadn't allowed enough time to let the eyes completely dry. So I was a bit annoyed that some of that ink did spill and bleed into the eyes, certainly on the right hand side as you're watching the video. But I think I managed to rescue it later on, and I suppose because I was limited for time I didn't really have any option but just to kind of go with it. And certainly this technique and having that time constraint on me today did really make me simplify things, so I wasn't able to worry too much about details and planning things out, and in a way it kind of forced me into looking at it from a different point of view. So it did push me out of my comfort zone quite a bit, because normally I like to plan the order of things and which areas I'm going to do first and that kind of thing, but today I really did just kind of go for it, and I spent most of the time actually trying to go in afterwards and fix things that I wasn't happy with, rather than work the other way around and go in really carefully to start with. And so it was a bit different, a bit kind of reverse to what I would normally do, but it was interesting to try, and as Jake Parker said in one of his other videos, it was finished, not perfect by the end of it. But the dip pen was really useful at getting in some nice details, and as the ink dried it did dry lighter, as I've noticed in the other pictures that I've done, so it did give me a bit of flexibility to go back in and put in a few more details with the dip pen and neat black ink. The other thing that I wasn't too happy about with is that normally I'm a little bit more careful about where everything goes, and in this painting I did feel like the nose wasn't too straight actually. I don't know if you agree with me on that one, but I did try and fix it a little bit, going in with the dip pen just to add a few more details, but that was something that really bugged me for quite a long time, and looking at it later on now, it's kind of still bugging me a bit. But I think actually it turned out a lot better than I had initially thought it would, and I think I managed to rescue some of the details that I wasn't able to put in to start with, just by going over once it had all dried and using the dip pen to put in some of those fine hairs and things across the ear, as you can see me doing now, and just to sharpen up some of the bits where it was less detailed than I was happy with, so like around the eyes and that kind of thing. But it's a little bit ironic that yesterday my aim was to be a bit bolder with colour and a little bit more spontaneous, and here I am today kind of being forced into that. But maybe that's good for you, maybe it's good to push yourself out of your comfort zone now and again, and with Inktober I think the main aim is to just complete something every day. So it hasn't always got to be super detailed, it hasn't always got to be a masterpiece or something that you would put up on your wall. It's really part of the process to just get some ink down, practice, try something new, and it will be sort of beneficial in the long run because you'll benefit from doing the practice and gaining a little bit more confidence. So I was pleased that I didn't just cop out and not do something. So if you're in a similar situation and perhaps you're thinking that you can't fit it in or that you haven't got time, then just do something smaller or do something slightly different. So at this point I then just went in and again tried to darken up some of the areas that had gone really light and try and kind of make the darkest areas dark enough, but also to try and make him look a bit more realistic, I suppose. But generally I was quite pleased that this kind of came together, as I wasn't really expecting great things. The eyes did turn out okay actually. The one on the right where the black ink bled into it in the first place, it did dry a bit lighter, and I was able to use a little bit of white ink just to kind of dull down the black that had bled in. So that was off camera because I kind of did panic and didn't record it, but that's what I did. So it was a combination of the ink drying lighter and me using a little bit of white just to kind of tidy up the bit where it had bled in. So then after I'd done all the black and tidied things up a bit, I then went in with a white gel pen just to kind of put in some of those details for the whiskers. And by this time I was starting to feel a little bit happier with it. And then after that I went in with a damp paintbrush and just sort of touched up the ends of the whiskers where they come out of the cat's mouth, just so that they look like they're coming out of the hair rather than just sitting on top of it. I also use the same technique for inside the cat's ears. And using the same gel pen, just put a little bit of white into the eye area and added some clean water just to kind of soften that up. Then it was time to add the highlights back into the eyes and again soften those up a little bit just with some clean water. So all in all, it did kind of turn out okay. It's not perfect, but it is finished, and I did manage to complete it in the time I had, which I was really pleased with. So I think this is also a lesson, for me at least, in carrying on, keeping going, and not assuming that it's going to turn out to be a disaster, because as I said, although I put down the ink initially really quickly, I did spend the rest of the time kind of fixing it and getting it to a point that I was happy with. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, comment and subscribe to my channel, and see what happens tomorrow. Bye!